This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top questions and struggles. I share what to eat, how to move, and think to get the energy and the vitality you want in the second and better half. And this is the middle of my summer series. So let's call it a little bit like the Today Show Summer Concert Series. This is the Summer Inspire Series. So I've got some new Flipping 50 guests, and I've got some returning Flipping 50 guests, some of our most popular podcasts. I went back and said, please come back. You were so inspiring. And my guest today is just that, one of those inspiring people who was on. Tracy Hensley had lost 85 pounds when I last caught up to her on the Flipping 50 podcast, and she's back. And I know she's made some more progress, so we're going to catch up with her and talk to her about her experience in Flipping 50. Tracy, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, okay, what's the scoop? Where are you now? When we talked last, you were at about 85 pounds, and I'm going to have to go dig that link up just for listeners so you know. I will put that link in the notes so you can listen to it if you haven't heard it. But Tracy, where were you then? You were at 85 pounds. That was at least a year ago. Where are you now?
Well, I think the first podcast that we did, I was 57 years old at 57 pounds.
Oh, and that's right.
I updated you then later when I was 85, and I don't remember exactly when that was, around Thanksgiving maybe.
Okay.
But, now today I'm at 103 pounds.
Wow.
My goal was to lose 100. I just wanted to hit 100. You know, I was like, that was a good round number. 100 pounds is great, you know. And so I've gotten to 103, and I'm just kind of now just on maintenance and just kind of seeing where I go from here and kind of continue to go down a little bit more, but not a whole lot. So I'm there.
So awesome. And congratulations. I mean, I would like to, if we're on a teleconference, sometimes we can push *5 and it's like applause. So I'm doing that virtually in the air right now. So, what's your age right now? So that's 50.
I'm 58.
58. Oh, just a year. Oh my gosh. Okay. So now give us some context. Where did you start when you were starting on your weight loss journey? Where were you?
Weight poundage wise?
Yes.
I was 268.
Okay.
And now I'm 165.
Awesome.
So that's a great place to be. I'm glad to finally be there.
Tell me this, because I'm guessing that there is a difference for you. And we hear a lot about, the real age test and so forth. So not going into that necessarily, but I mean, how old do you feel?
Much less than 58. I think I actually feel better. I wouldn't say 40 because I was probably at my heaviest at 40. So, I mean, I have to go back probably to my 30s. And I can't say that I've weighed 165 since maybe high school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's been a long time since. And I'm wearing a size 8 jean. I started at a 22. And I'm wearing 8. And I told my daughter today, I said, I don't think I ever remember wearing an 8.
Wow.
It's always been like size 12 has been my lowest size.
So gosh, and I want to give some context to this too. So just so that all of you know, we aren't live. This is a podcast and we are recording. We happen to be recording on Mother's Day. So Tracy was gracious enough to join me on Mother's Day. So that has to be a thrill. I have to think that your kids have to be so proud of you.
Yeah, they are. They're my biggest, and my husband is, he's very appreciative too, and I'm trying to influence him, and I'm making small progress.
Great.
But it's one of those things where people have to decide for themselves.
It's
you can't
so true.
force it on them, you can't preach it to them, you can't do anything, but let them see what you're doing. And it's changed, because the way I eat, he'll eats that way also. So it has helped him also. And the girls, they're seeing how I'm eating, and they're working on different things for themselves too. So, but it's just not something I can preach to them. I just have to let them decide what they want to do.
Right. That's the wisdom of somebody who's been on the journey. I hear that. So, for listeners, just to give you some context out there, if you are listening, so Tracy actually, got this news that she needed to change something, right? Years ago, was diagnosed with diabetes.
Correct.
Yes. And so what's the status right now?
Well, my last A1C was in December, and it was 5.2. So
can you give listeners some context to that? So where should it be? Is there a range?
Well, I think I'm not exactly sure what normal is, but I have been as high as 7.4, and that's 7.9, and that's like blood sugar level of 180, and now it's like at 104, or it might even be in the 90s. I guess I didn't really look at that real closely, but it's very well managed. My doctor is like, can't hardly believe it. He's very shocked because, like I said on the podcast before, for 15 years, he had told me,
right.
You need to do this, you need to exercise, you need to do, and I just didn't listen to him. I just ignored everything that he said. But now he's like, can't hardly believe it, but he's very proud of me. And he says, you're inspiration to me. And I'm sure you're inspiration to other people. And I said, yeah, I just, I feel like this is what I should have been doing a long time ago, but I'm here now, and I do not want to go back at all. And so I go back to him in June to get the end of June. So I'll find out all my latest, where I'm at.
Okay. Is that an annual appointment, or is that 6 months? How long ago
He's been having me come every 6 months, which I like, because I like to keep track of, because those numbers are really important to me.
Right. Right. Isn't funny, to a lot of people, what's really important is the scale, which is great, but you've got another set of numbers that were a little bit more threatening. So it got scary, and that's really what got your attention ultimately. Yep. There was that one appointment. I can remember you telling the story when you were driving home and you were thinking, he's never talked to me like that. And that was a different tone of voice, and I better pay attention. And you did.
Yeah, he was losing his patience with me, and I, never really want that to happen, because he's done a good job. And he was always sensitive of my not unwillingness to change. I mean, he didn't harp on me. He just, and it's the truth. I mean, nobody can sway you into doing something you don't want to do. And I'm very stubborn by nature. So if I don't want to do it, I'm probably not going to do it. So, so now it's, I'm seeing the error of my way. And now for a year and a half, or it's probably been coming up on 2 years, on this journey. And, I think, well, if I would have done this earlier, I wouldn't have been 2 years in this, but I'm glad that I started it, and I'm kind of towards the end. I still have things I need to work on, but it's good.
Yeah, fantastic. And I have to say, that bit of stubbornness, when you turn it around and harness it, it's your best ally, right? Because stubborn in not doing it, but then once you make your mind up, I mean, that's the person who's going to succeed, because you probably had ups and downs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And plateaus, or kind of even off, and just like, oh gosh, I don't want to stop here. So, but then you keep going. And then, so many people, the people that I work with are all like, every day they're like, oh, you're so skinny. I'm like, don't call me skinny, because I don't know that I'm skinny. I still have this muffin top. And they're like, well, you look good. And, so I don't want to like disappoint them and put on more weight, and then they have to say, they're in an awkward position too, because they don't want to say, oh, you've gained weight, So I just want to keep, keep this weight and just go from there and make it a lifestyle. And this is the weight I want to be at for ever,
So talk to me. So I know you had ignored your doctor. You weren't doing anything. And then I know you've been really good about both nutrition and really been a diligent exerciser, which is amazing as far as the result that it has on blood sugar stabilization, which is where you really needed some help. So if you're listening, you've got blood sugar issues and or you've actually been diagnosed with diabetes, it's one of those life-saving things, but it's beyond that. It is the immediate gratification. It helps you feel better right away. So Tracy, talk to us a little bit about, was it hard?
In some respects, it was a little easier than I thought. That towards the end, it did get tedious and hard because I was like, I can't. You don't eat less, exercise more. That's not, and it's not the calories. It just is like, okay, I'm just ready to be at 100 pounds less. I just want to get there. And so I started doing, and I've kind of intermittent fasted, off and on quite a while. And so I really kind of ticked that up and it's like, okay, if I know that the scale moves if I intermittent fast, so I'm going to do that and just get to that point so I can stop obsessing about it, because you kind of do get obsessive when you get close to your goal, I think that's just human nature. So once I got to that goal, then it was like, okay. And then I thought, well, okay, I want to go down. I want to be like 5 pounds less than that so that I have some playroom,
Right.
I want to have a little cushion room there that when I go back to just eating 3 meals a day or, the way that I had been eating most of the time, that I can just maintain this and I don't have
So let's dive into that. So I know listeners are going to be picking up and ears perked up. I just know it when you said intermittent fasting. So describe how you did it, because there's a wide continuum.
Well, I first started just, and it's always hard to, you don't know what track you fit into. But I just started for a while. I would just fast from eat dinner and not have any snacks. And then I would skip breakfast and then I would eat lunch. Now, a lot of people think that you should have breakfast every day and that, everyone's different. So that worked for me good because then I could still have lunch. I could still have dinner after dinner. And I would just do that like 2 or 3 times a week. And then I would, just probably 2 to 3 times a week, I would just do that. And then for a while when I was getting closer to my goal, I was doing every day. I wouldn't eat breakfast every day. And I would try to not have a snack after dinner and then go till lunch. And then a few times I would bump it and I would just eat dinner. And that was maybe once a week. Then I did do an extended fast for 5 days. And I just did a water fast. And I was amazed at how much energy and how good I felt. Because every day I thought, I'm just going to go until I really am so hungry. And my blood sugar, I have to keep an eye on that. So I monitored that very closely through the whole intermittent fasting because my husband was kind of freaking out. I wasn't eating. And I said, I'm not hungry. I have more energy. My mood is better. I feel wonderful. And I said, I don't know how long I'm going to stop eating for. And he's like, oh my gosh. And I said, well, I'm just, when I don't feel good and my sugars, my blood sugars get really low or whatever, I will stop. And so I did 5 days. And like I said, it was my first longer fast. I think I might have done 1 3-day fast. And so then I went another month or so, and then I did another 5-day fast. And I really could have gone longer, but I was like, I had a plan with a friend to go to dinner. So I was like, I kind of have to break the fast. So I'll just stop. And, my numbers stayed they went into the 60s, but prior to that, if my blood sugar would get into the low 70s, I would be shaky, sweaty, didn't know exactly where I was. But since my blood sugar has been much better, I got down to the 62 was my lowest one, and I didn't feel any different than at 100. So I thought, well, okay, and I read a book, Intermittent Fasting and, had good information, so I knew kind of what I was doing. I wasn't just blindly doing it, but I really was. How much energy, how good I felt. I exercised every day, just the same as I always did. Towards the end, I would just do less reps. I probably could have pushed it, but I didn't. I thought, no, don't. Just do what you feel that you can do. And so that's kind of how I got to my goal. Pushed it a little bit. But it was good.
I want to come back and pick up on a couple of points that you've said in there. But first, so talk about this. So here's one question. Post the fast, especially the longer ones, like the 5-day, the couple of those, and the 3-day, did you lose quite a bit of weight, noticeable from that? And then when you broke the fast and resumed, did you gain any of it back? What happened there?
Well, the first 3-day fast, I think I lost about 6 pounds. And then when I started eating again, which I didn't go all out and just eat everything in sight. I wasn't that kind of hungry. I just continued my regular way of eating. And so I only probably gained about 2 or 3 pounds back. Then for my 7-day fast, on both of those, I lost about 9 pounds. And then I gained probably about 4 pounds back. So I probably netted about 5 pounds for that week.
Got it. Okay. And my mistake, let me clarify, Tracy, were you doing 5-day fast or 7-day fast?
5 days.
5. Okay. That's what I thought. I just wanted to clarify that. And then were you tracking body composition as well or just weight?
No, I was also, I have a Fitbit, that Aria scale that does body fat. And my body fat has come down to, it started at 42% and it's down to 34.5 now. So that's a pretty good amount of loss. And it's, I've also been doing an in-body
assessment. Yes.
Assessment. I started that. Well, it'll be May 18th. It was when I first did one. And it was after my very first podcast. We had talked about it a little bit. And I finally found a place to go to do this. I was at a gym. And so the guy gave me a little diet plan and stuff. And I kind of half-heartedly felt, because I kind of was doing my own thing. I had already lost about 50 pounds. Well, 20 or 30 pounds before I had. No, it was 57 pounds. And so I've been every 3 months, I go on that. And that's a little more accurate. And I can't remember exactly. I think I have it here. But the guy at the gym that does it for me, and we talk, he's amazed at how it's just gone down and that I've stuck with it. And then it's just continued to go down. Because on his thing, my body percent is 32.9, and it started at 40.8. And it's just been, the little chart has just been going down. And then he said, I have lost a little muscle mass, but not a lot.
Yep. Okay. Which is normal. So anybody listening, anytime you lose weight, you're losing a percent of muscle, but minimizing that is, what counts. And then putting it back or, really balancing the scale so that you're losing fat and you're gaining muscle at the same time with strength training can really help. So I'm sure you've offset that a little bit. So talk a little bit about your exercise plan right now. How many days a week are you doing cardio? What type?
Okay, so I do 3 days a week. I do strength training. And I've kind of concocted a little Deborah Atkinson on your Flipping 50 program. You did some question and answer, and then you gave some ideas for exercise for those troubled spots or whatever. So I kind of concocted. I have a little sheet that I do the kettle. Well, I don't have a kettlebell, so I just do a dumbbell. But I do like a 20-pound. I'm up to 20 pounds now, and the plie squat and the bent over row, and so I have like 6 or 8 in that setup that I do, and I do 4 to 5 rounds of that on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then I try to switch that up, and then I made up my own body weight or weight one that I do. I kind of try to change it a little bit. So then I do that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do a high impact, high intensity aerobic one, where I do, for a while I was doing it on the bike where I was going like crazy for 30 seconds, resting for 90 seconds, going like crazy for 30, that one. But then that got right the bike.
Right.
And so I thought, well, and they say your body kind of
adapts, right?
Yeah. So so I have a Jessica Smith. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she has a lot of hit ones, and she's very, very good. I love her. So I do her, a couple of different ones of hers Tuesday and Thursday. And then now that the weather has been nicer, I do those in the morning, first thing in the morning. And then now, since the weather has been nice and I can walk, I go out and walk for about 35 to 40 minutes, as many nights as I can, and a lot on the weekends. I mean, I do it at least Saturday and Sunday. I try to do it. So I'm exercising quite a bit, but it works, and I enjoy it. So
yes. And so on this journey, Tracy, you've done a lot of exercise smartly, wisely. You've got a great mix. Any injuries?
No.
Amazing. That's right. That right there is proof, that the right nutrition, the right rest, the right exercise, your body has changed a lot. I mean, you've lost, I don't even know what that would be, like a fourth grader, basically, right? I mean, 100 pounds. I mean, so you've lost an entire person. And, that means a lot changes in your structure and the way you're put together. Even in a good way, change is still change. So, your joints are kind of learning to deal with a new body along the way. Granted, pound by pound.
Yeah. They're thankful for my,
Yes, right.
They're saying thank you for taking all that weight. And, now when I carry up like a 10-pound bag of potatoes or, something, it's like, I used to carry around 100 pounds of that.
Right. Yeah.
It kind of puts it in perspective.
So let me ask you this. So, you've said, in no way do I feel 58. So how do you define aging? What would you say to that?
Well, the old cliche, you're only as old as you feel. And if you're 100 pounds overweight, you don't feel good. I thought I felt fine, but until you feel good, really good, you don't realize it. But I think it makes you age prematurely when you don't take care of yourself. When you do take care of yourself, then you get more to maybe not even my age, less than my age, but I just feel more energetic. I do more things. Just the walking in the evenings, I was like, oh, walk. I just can't. But now it's like, I really love walking, and so it's just, you feel much younger and if I could get my wrinkles or, it's like, because, I've lost my chin. I don't have my double chin anymore. So I have like a little saggy. And my husband keeps saying, well, do you want to have plastic surgery on that? I'm like, why? Do you think I need it?
That's a loaded question right there, right?
Yeah, it is.
He can't win. He can't win.
No, but you know how, man, they just bulge right in there and just say whatever. But I said, I'm kind of waiting for my skin to get used to it, and maybe it's gonna, get a little more and age. I'm reading on collagen and try to figure out how to tighten everything up, because my arms still are not, my bat wings are kind of still there. And like I say, my belly fat, I had a lot of that, and I have a lot less, but I still have more than I want. And I know that that's just a time thing where you just have to keep working on it.
I'm going to give you 2 tips, and listeners too, just in case you haven't heard this. So this comes directly from a Flipping 50 TV episode where a good friend of mine, Dr. Tony Yoon, who is America's holistic plastic surgeon. So he gives a lot of tips on how to avoid surgery, actually, which is really refreshing. So he came on, and I had a question from someone who had lost a lot of weight and had, actually, she mistyped it. So I thought she said crappy skin. It was actually crepey.
Crepey skin.
So, same difference, right?
Yep.
So
yeah.
The 2 things that he suggested is, one, something you can get probably at your corner pharmacy. It's called monkey butt or lady monkey butt, and you can Google it and you'll find it. But it's got some property, and he said it's not expensive, but it's got some properties in it that actually can really help moisturize really dry, chafing skin, especially if you're exercising and it bothers you. Like, I know I can go for a run or a walk, and if I don't put something, right under the jog bra on the underarm, I can chafe there. So just that's one. And the other one is, when you go to buy a body lotion, look for one that's got retin-A in it. So you don't want the same kind of dose that you would put on your face, but you want something that's got a little retin-A, so it's going to help cell turnover and rejuvenation a little bit. And, like you said, you're already doing it, that looking for collagen or inflammation, slipping bone broth into your, daily diet, sip it like tea, or get collagen powder to add to smoothies. If you're doing smoothies, you can stir that into coffee too, but those little boosts are not really expensive, certainly when you look at plastic surgery, but ways to boost your skin. And we do lose collagen as we age. Right. So that goes for everybody, whether or not you've gone through weight loss, but can help rejuvenate the skin. And, when you've got 100 pounds lost, you're probably going to have some extra skin unless you decide you want to do something. And I know people who've gone both ways, decided, this is part of me, this is cool. And some that have decided, no, I am going to do something. So,
yeah. And I've been doing the collagen powder. I just a couple weeks ago ran onto a good one. I've been putting that in my smoothie. And then I do have a collagen lotion, but I haven't, it just says collagen and elastins or something like that. I haven't looked if it has the retinol stuff or retinol on the ingredients list for that. And then bone broth, I have a thing of that in my cupboard that I bought a while ago. And then on fast, they said that's sometimes a good thing when you fast to
yes,
you could have a little bone broth, if you need. And I've never really needed it. So I just have it there, and every day I think I'm going to take this to work with me for my lunch and have it with my lunch. And it's not a habit yet. So I'm going to try that, because I'm trying all things collagen.
Right. Yeah,
whatever I can. Keep looking at my neck going, a little better. And then I put cocoa butter on it every night. And I think that's kind of good for that too. So I go slathered with that every night.
Totally agree. Yeah. And it's twofold. I think it's number one, it's when you start thinking about it, consistency in anything makes such a big difference. So if you're moisturizing, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Tracy, along the way, I mean, you had a big journey, really. You had a long journey, and you were maybe at, your original starting point at, 260 some pounds. You were one kind of a person, maybe to someone else, like friends and colleagues. How important was environment to you as you were, changing? You were remodeling Tracy, basically. What was that like? With the people around you? How important was environment? What obstacles did you come against?
Well, I'm still working on these obstacles but no one is, well, one of my coworkers is quite overweight, but I'm still working on him, and he is kind of starting to come around because he's seen, my changes. And so then he'll bring an apple and crunch on that and see, I'm eating some fruit, And I'm like, but that donut that you have in the morning, or, I critique it inside. I don't say anything to him. But my other coworkers, none of them really have huge weight issues. Everyone needs to eat more healthier, no matter if you're fat or thin, you still need to eat healthy. So they're starting to think of eating healthier, and I am motivating them. The one gal that I work with, Cora, she listened to my podcast, my first one, and she said she cried.
Oh, wow.
Because she felt so good for me. And so, I'm kind of everyone's kind of being encouraged by it. But the thing that still gets me is we have a lot of people that come in and bring us things. And they bring donuts, and they bring bagels, and they bring, all this stuff that are donuts were my downfall. I would have a donut every day going to work, 2 or 3. And so they have always been my really hard thing to pass up. And I've done it. And some days I have not done it. Just depends on the day. And then I feel really guilty about that. But so I told my boss one time, I said, I'm putting a sign on the door that says, no donuts beyond this point. Do not bring donuts, and you can't control, but the donuts sit there for 2 or 3 days because not that many people eat them anyway. So It's like they go to waste. So why do you people keep bringing these? So that's the environment. And we have sales meetings, and, there's always good food with that. And, sometimes sales meeting on Friday, I'll just have a small amount. Or sometimes if I'm feeling really good, I'll just bring my own lunch and just eat it. And they're like, you have a lot of willpower. And I said, sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. It's not always like that. But, I try to, not succumb to that. But a lot of times I do. And then sometimes I just can't control myself. I can see more. But I figure if it's not, I'm not doing that every day anymore. That was the way I would eat every day, 3 meals a day, So I think, well, I have, made a lot of changes. And if I fall off one day, you just climb back on the next and go for it, So
really kind of an 80-20 rule,
right.
you give yourself a little wiggle room, and progress, not perfection. That kind of it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I just
okay. So yeah. Go
hang
ahead.
in there.
Hanging in there. I love the way, really you can hear. I think listeners are picking up on this too, maybe more than you realize, Tracy, but you're very much non-judgmental of anybody else. And, maybe in part because you're forgiving of yourself when you aren't perfect and you can get back on. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of like when people are around you, I'm sure they're feeling like you're in the boat with them. You're not looking at them as if, well, I've lost 100 pounds and you're the expert kind of thing. It's, every day is this day. I have to, work on it too. Mm-hmm. That's what I hear. And just what a refreshing, inspiring person to be around.
Right. Yeah. I did not enjoy it when people would say things to me like, you're a diabetic. Should you really not be eating that? Well, of course I shouldn't be eating this, but I want to. So just shut up and don't, I never said, I'm a really nice person, so I don't say that. But that's what inside of me I felt. And I didn't want anyone, and a lot of times you just eat in secret too, because you don't want to make them, because once they say that to you, it's like, yeah, no, I shouldn't be eating this, but I am. And I enjoy every bite of it. And so I'm going to keep it up. So I would go for lunch and I would eat horrible lunches, but no one really knew that I was eating that much or, so I was kind of a closet eater because I didn't want people to judge me on what I was eating, knowing that I'm diabetic, and they're
true, right.
They're concerned about me, but I just didn't want anyone knowing that, I just, this is what I do. This is my employment.
Okay.
I enjoy food.
I want to ask something because I don't hear this. I don't hear you talking about, a past or even current of emotional eating. I just kind of hear you, making choices. And it's like, yeah, I do kind of enjoy junk food.
Right.
I have to tell myself, no, the good food, I like that too, but I need more of that, not the junk food. But I don't hear you talking about emotional eating. Has that been an issue for you?
Well, I had noticed myself in different periods of my life that were tough that I did emotionally. My husband would make me mad or whatever, and I would hit the next Popeyes and eat everything there, and I was like, whoa. And so I kind of caught myself, but it was, for the most part, no, I just ate because I like to eat. And whether I felt bad or I felt good, I like to eat, And then I did find small places where I would, people would say emotional eating. It's like, oh yeah, maybe I do that in this situation or not. But it's also quite interesting because you get used to a routine of the things like you do. Like every time, well, for a while there, when I would go to the gas station, I would go in and get a donut. So now when I go to get gas, I think, oh, I want to get a donut. And it's like, no, Tracy, you don't want to get a donut because you know how bad that is. So, and my daughter and I used to go to the mall and there was a cookies factory place there, and we would always get a cookie every time we went to the mall, which wasn't all the time. But now I can't hardly go to that mall except for the cookie shop. It's now closed. It's not there anymore. But I emotionally, or I don't know if that's emotional. It's just kind of one of those things where you're
like a trigger, right? Yeah.
When you go to the mall, you have a cookie. Well, and the last time I went, when they had the store there, I was like, no, I have to come to this mall because there's a store that I want to go to. And so there's places that are trigger places that you think about, okay, this is what I used to get there, and I love that. And, so you either avoid it or you deal with, no, you don't, you're not going to, just because, and I still to this day, when I go to get gas, that pops into my head. Oh, a donut. No, you can't have a donut, So it's crazy how that happens, because every plate has an association with food.
Yeah.
Like, no.
That is so true. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Have you tried to replace it? So think about, all right, I'm going to get a bottle of water instead of the donut, or I'm going to get a bag of almonds or.
Right. And I have done that a little bit. I just don't go in, The other day I went in and I thought, oh, I could get some sparkling water, that would work. And I'm kind of thirsty. So I did that. But the thing that I have done is I have found some low carb donuts that you can make. So I'm not really giving, obviously I don't have them every day. I have them on Saturday. But I just make these low carb donuts, and I just have one or two, and it's like 3 or 4 carbs. It's like, okay, I feel better about, at least I can have a donut, and I don't feel like that was 50 some or 80 some carbs that, a donut can be. So I'm kind of making some switches too, in making more healthier, that kind of stuff, than just being without it altogether. I have been without it altogether until I discovered this website where this lady makes all these great low carb desserts. And then now that I'm kind of at my goal, I think, well, as long as it doesn't, because sometimes the sugar dragon can kick up and that can cause you to not eat the low carb one. You go for the real live one, So
Sure. Yeah.
you kind of got to watch that too and not get too crazy. So I just, every once in a while, when I get a little sweet tooth, I think, I'll make a low carb brownie thing, just a one serving one that they have that you make in a little cup or whatever. So I'm just trying
a way around it. Yeah. I love that. Kind of finding a way to have the things that you really miss, just make a flip, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, just a little switch.
And I'm going to do a real back pedal for listeners, and just so that we can dive back into what Tracy was telling us. And I apologize for not doing this earlier. I thought of it and we kind of started down another track. So I neglected to go back to it. But to give you some perspective on Tracy's blood sugars, when she was talking about fasting and being able to, go down to 60 and still feel good and, even hit 70 and that was fine, or then go down to 60. And then she also talked about how her blood sugar had been 180, just to give you a little perspective on that. So if you go in and you do a glucose test, often doctors will tell you that it's okay if your glucose levels go up to, say, 140 after a meal. And actually, for health purposes, a lot of us like to see stabilization, and actually you dealing with your blood sugar post-meal better than that. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't have that fluctuation. And, an average of, say, 110, even after a meal is, ideal. So it's looking at where are you now and where could you be? Most people, like when they get up in the morning, which is after an overnight fast, 10 to 12 hours, ideally without anything. If you take it first thing in the morning before breakfast, an average for most people is about 85. So you might be a little lower than that. You might be a little bit higher, but that's an average. So that gives you an idea of, Tracy in a fasted state for, 5 days. She was able to go down to 60 and still feel comfortable not crashing. And that's the risk for some of us. Now, when you get up in the morning and it's 85, you may not feel like you're crashing. You may just feel, you're hungry, at some point shortly after breakfast or after you've been up, you're going to want something to eat potentially. And that's, kind of where that is, but that's still not necessarily crashing. And most of us, should be okay going several hours without eating anything because physiologically we have things to carry us over. But what you're looking for is that when you do eat food, you don't have that spike and that drop again. And that's in part the food you're choosing to eat, but it's also what's going on with your blood sugar levels and the ability of your body to maintain it. And both those are affected by, yes, the food you usually eat and the exercise that you get. Sleep can also affect it, but I just wanted to dive back into those numbers. So if you were wondering, kind of what was the perspective there, that should help you. Tracy, is there a question that you either wish I would have asked you or a piece of advice that you'd give to somebody who's listening who starts and stops and they really want to lose weight, but they cannot seem to stick with it?
Well, everyone is kind of different how they handle that. And, yo-yo dieting is really bad for you because your body just doesn't know what's going on. Your body kind of, I think, likes the usual, doesn't like to have things switched up on it. But I think that it just, your mind I think it's more of a mind game than it is really a losing weight thing, because your mind controls so much of what you do. You know, you eat a cookie in the break room, and then oh man, I shouldn't have eaten that. Well, I might as well just have 2 or 3. I ate one. I'm just going to have 3 or 4. I'm going to get rid of these cookies here. If no one else is going to eat them, I'm going to eat them. You know, and then, you know, it's just in your mind. And then the next day you think, well, yesterday I had 4 cookies, so I might as well have, you know, and you just kind of fight yourself, really. And it's just, you got to have the right mindset and know, you know, especially if have a lot to lose. It's going to be a long time, and you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days, but just keep plugging along. Do not give up, because when you do give up, you go back and you gain more weight. And then you have those extra pounds plus the ones you had before, and then it's just that much harder. So if you can just, in your mind, talk to yourself, tell yourself, and keep telling yourself that, okay, you had 4 cookies yesterday, and you got rid of them all. They're not there in the break room anymore. So you got rid of all of those. So now today, you don't have to worry about those. And you can just go on, bring your regular lunch, go like it never happened, and just continue just to, you know, and if you have a bad day in another couple of days or a week, just keep trucking along. You know, you just have to keep moving forward. And, you know, maybe you have a bad week. You know, Christmas was horrible for me. I ate everything in sight, and I think I gained like 9 pounds over a couple week period. And it was like, okay, Tracy, now you have 9 pounds more that you have to get rid of. Was it worth all of that? And sometimes I say yes, and sometimes I say no. You know, but after you haven't had things for a long time, you know, sometimes that's the thing, is the restriction of not having it. Then you just go all crazy. But if you can just, okay, you know, you're going to have to deal with 9 more pounds now, you know, so it's a mindset, and the way that you talk to yourself, you know, and just keep up the good work, keep going, keep exercising. You're making progress. If you don't see the progress, figure out what you're doing that maybe you can change. Maybe your portions are too big, or you're not doing enough of this kind of exercise, or whatever. So just, you know, try to figure it out. Try to stay, you know, good. And if you don't, you know, you just have to deal with the consequences of that and come back to it again in another month or 2, you know, and just try to just, you know, make the best of it.
Great advice. Great at coaching yourself. I can hear your kind of inner coach and how your self-talk may go. And so right, I couldn't agree more that mindset is such a big part of it. If you're listening and you have a question, leave it below the show link at flipping50.com. I love hearing from you. And if this episode with Tracy was helpful, please leave a rating in iTunes and then share it with a friend. Surround yourself with a supportive community of women on the same journey. To get the most from this week's episode, check out today's show notes at flipping50.com/podcast, where you'll find the juicy downloads, resources, and particularly the link to Tracy's last show today. Let's start Flipping 50 together.